on these old style Pentair push-pull valves, we've got two screws, one here and one right behind here. Now obviously I can't get my screwdriver in here, so what I do, my trick, is I turn the screwdriver sideways like this, and I'll turn it this way like a wrench. Just like that. And these screws aren't in there real tight, so you can just, once you get them loose, you can almost undo them by hand. Now, if your valve is stuck and you can't pull it out by hand, if you're yanking on it and you cannot pull it out by hand, you may have to pull out these secondary screws that hold in the valve lock. And then you got to get crafty. If you're very careful and gentle, you can take a pair of pliers and a hammer, wrap the pliers around your channel lock pliers around like this, and then tap this upward gently. To remove the plunger from the housing. And be careful, this is just flimsy and plastic, that's why we can't turn this backwash valve on and off while the equipment's running. Now on this one, the O-rings are still in good shape, so this one just needs a real good lube job because it's just getting a little tight. I like to use Aqua Shield, also known as Aqua Lube. And when I lube these, what I do is I like to squirt it in the middle. There's a little gap between the where the O-ring sits and the plunger, and you can squeeze that in there, and that way when you pull this plunger up and down, that O-ring will shift and move. It'll squeeze a little bit of that lube out and get it onto the O-ring again. Like that. Drop that back in the same orientation it was when I pulled it out. Slip that back in, line it up. Put my screws back in. I just hand screw them in first. Nicely now, and that's done. Now this Hayward style valve is really nice because we don't have any hardware, we just have this collar that's hand twisted on. Some are going to be tighter than others. This one's nice and smooth because this is a brand new valve. And once again, it's just a matter of once you get that off, you just pull up. We've got our two O-rings here, our plunger O-rings. There's this outer O-ring right here that seals the outside, and there's also an O-ring up inside of here that seals the inside of the shaft. It's right up inside here, and in order to replace that, there's a pin right inside here that holds this handle onto the shaft. That pin has to be tapped out, and this handle comes off, and we can access that O-ring that's up inside there that seals that shaft from leaking water out of the top. And it's essentially the same process on a Pentair valve, so we'll show you how that goes on the Pentair valve. Now on this Hayward valve, you got to watch it because, as you can see here, there's a little tooth right here, and that tooth fits into a groove right here on the side. So we have to make sure that that goes in exactly where it's supposed to go, or else this is going to sit up and bind. It's not going to seal down like it's supposed to. So we want to make sure that goes just like that. Now the easiest way to remove these O-rings that I've found is just by using a screwdriver, using that screwdriver to wedge them out. Just like that. They just peel off real nicely. Make sure to clean out all these grooves where these O-ring goes in the plunger discs, so we're free of gunk. We're ready to put our new O-rings on. And it's just as simple as just sliding them up and over into place, just like that. Now in some of these plungers, the top and the bottom will be two slightly different sizes. So if one O-ring seems loose and the other seems tight, just flip-flop them, and that should alleviate that. Now the next job is removing this pin in order to replace this O-ring that goes up inside there. And it's pretty much the same process whether it's a Hayward backwash valve or a Pentair backwash valve. We've got to remove this pin that holds the handle on. The handle comes off, this piece will come off, and we'll do that next. Probably the most difficult part of this job is removing this stupid little pin. Sometimes they come out super easy, sometimes they come out difficult. Believe me, I've tried just about everything, and it just takes patience working it out, either with a set of lineman's pliers or needle nose pliers, and it'll eventually come out. But take your time with it, be patient, don't get frustrated, don't break anything, and that pin will eventually come out and you can replace the that O-ring that goes around the shaft. Once you get that pin finally out, it's a pretty easy job to replace that O-ring. Just slide the new one back in and put it in place. Make sure the seat's clean as well, and you're good to go. I found that the easiest way to press the pin back into place is just to kind of push it in with your hand a little bit and then gently use a pair of channel locks. Adjust it out just a little bit, of course, and slowly and carefully work it back in so you don't bend or break anything. Once the pin's back in place, you can just reassemble the valve after lubricating all the O-rings, of course, and your work is done.